Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto Was Neglected and Escapes to Kumo, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Fugaku walked through the root facility with Danzo and Sasuke. Sasuke was appointed Fugaku's will in the Akatsuki, which really didn't go over too smoothly with a bunch of S ranks. That being said, the Uchiha Hokage gave them most everything they could need or want, so they tolerated the brat. As Fugaku approached a chamber, Sasuke let out a low whistle and the trio saw a group of 3 figures form up in front of the S members of the Akatsuki. The 3 Uchiha chosen to bear the Biju were a date with Sanbi, Tetsu got Rokubi and Itsuo contained Nanabi. Sasuke had the Yonbi because of his high fire affinity, and he now had the ape under the effects of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Each Jinchuriki had tracking seals, loyalty seals and, unknown to them, remote-activated chakra suppression seals. Through Sharingan suppression and manipulation, they were each able to enter their Biju cloaks to at least one tail. Their bodies were still adapting to the demonic chakra and that seemed to be the limit. As for the Akatsuki, Deidara the Mad Bomber, Sasori of the Red Sands, Kisame Hoshigaki the Tailless-Tailed Beast, Zetsu the Infiltrator, Hiden the Immortal Jashinist and Kakazu of 5 Hearts. They were each interested to wrap things up and collect their pay. However, they knew when to be quiet and the creepy cripple and Rinnegan Hokage were definitely reasons to stay quiet. Thanks for coming. Fugaku started simply. It is time we get started. Each of you will be conducting destabilizing operations. To start, we will make a direct strike on the Gobi. It may complicate things, but we need Iwa out of the picture so we can focus on Kumo. Won't Kumo get involved if we go back into the heart of Earth country? I mean, I am game for some chaotic and explosive art, but Iwa is strong, on. Deidara said. Fugaku nodded, that is why we will offer a distraction for Kumo to deal with. Deidara and Sasori will go to the land of waves. I want the daimyo and I want the Kumo detachment dealt with. Leader Sama, rumor has it that the daimyo, Tsunami, no longer lives on the island. Zetsu informed the group. She hasn't been seen doing her regular rounds in a couple months. Fugaku clicked his teeth, but Danzo stepped in. The daimyo is simply a puppet anyway. We only wanted her as leverage against the Uzumaki. Take out the detached force and Konoha will take over that strategic position. We need to put pressure on Uzumaki so that they will be forced to come to the negotiating table. Sasori grunted, so, is this an all-out attack or a hit and run? The Kumo shinobi and whatever they have in Uzumaki will pose a significant resistance once they hear about the attack. Danzo clicked his cane on the ground, not to worry. You will have at least half a day for Uzu to respond. You will have 5 days for Kumo to respond to such an attack. Are we sure about that? Didn't we find out Orochimaru was wiped out within a day of attacking some team from Kumo? How did they respond so fast? Kakazu cautioned. Fugaku scoffed, Kumo borders Oto and the Eagles enabled a rapid response. So, the Eagles can bring reinforcement faster too, Sasori continued Kakazu's line of thought. Danzo growled, they would still have to send a messenger bird. That is almost a 2-day flight for such a bird from Wave to Kumo. Sasuke scoffed, let them come, or a U.S. rank in name only. More sacrifices for Jashin Sama. Hiden said emphatically. So, what do we get to do in Iwa? Fugaku nodded, Hiden, you and Kakazu will create a distraction. Kisame and the Jinchuriki will be led by Sasuke and they will attack and subdue the Gobi. Kisame, I entrust you with this and you will need to be quick. Danzo nodded and stamped his cane, you will have 100 of the lesser root. They will be addressed as acolytes of the Akatsuki, and they are all equipped with incineration seals. This will stir the pot, but it cannot fall back on Konoha. Hi, cripple Sama. White Zetsu said, which earned laughs from Kisame, Deidara and Hiden. So, I can offer as many people to Jashin Sama as I want. Hiden asked enthusiastically. Fugaku scowled, this is an operation. Once the retreat is ordered, you are expected to fall back. Before then, do as you please. I would be careful if I were you, hidden. Onoki has the dust release, and I don't think your immortality would survive that. Kakazu cautioned. I have fought him before and it is a frightening ability. Not even my threads could survive it. Danzo was secretly hoping to be rid of the Jashinist, but he wouldn't say it aloud. The attacks will commence in 2 weeks' time at dusk. We want this synchronized to make sure that Kumo cannot respond to Iwa. Fugaku put a proud hand on Sasuke's shoulder. Son, this cannot be linked back to us. I entrust you with this operation. Complete this mission, then we can focus on the Uzumaki. This said stoically while watching the sadistic grin emerging on Sasuke's face. While looking truly deranged and evil, Sasuke responded with his lips barely cracking the smirk. Yes, father. Wave country, Ushio village. Now this is art, on. Deidara screamed excitedly as he sent a clay swallow diving towards a group of panicking civilians on the docks. He had enjoyed the first minute or two of senselessness as he saw shinobi scampering around below him. After the explosion cleared, Sasori grunted, "Take me down. I need to get in there. I can't let you hog the show when we have such an audience." As Sasori said that, a blue sheen appeared in the sky and the next volley of clay birds crashed into it and exploded midair. Deidara clicked his teeth. I hate barriers. He dug his hands into his clay pouch to form something to deal with this pesky barrier. Sasori growled, "Hurry up and break the damn barrier so I can get in on the show." It should be noted that after the artistic conversation with Deidara that Sasori became far more thirsty. The realization that his puppets were only art when there was an audience hit him hard, and there was no greater audience than a village under attack. Deidara had pulled a sizable chunk of clay from his pouch and his palms were chewing it, shaping it, and within a minute they spewed the clay out and it formed into a clay dragon. Deidara cackled madly as he hugged the dragon that was the size of a big teddy bear. Sasori watched Deidara toss the clay into the air, and it grew to the size of a true dragon after a puff of chakra smoke. Sasori couldn't help but let out a low whistle. "Ah ha ha ha. Now this is art. On." Deidara cackled loudly as the dragon dove into the barrier. The explosion that rocked Wave Country wave truly terrifying. The barrier only absorbed a percentage of the explosion, and the dusky sky was illuminated with a second sun. From a distance, the explosion looked to be nearly 300 meters in diameter, and the brilliant chakra light made it difficult to see the pixelation of the barrier that had collapsed in the presence of the raw force. Luckily, Wave had done drills and the shinobi were ready for an attack. The emergency barrier was always a delaying action, and the people of Wave were trained to seek shelter during the time the barrier brought. There were multiple shelters that were much more durable and reinforced with seals and barriers scattered around the village. These shelters were now going to be put to the test. Sasori and Deidara hovered until the smoke from the massive explosion cleared. Both artists wanted to truly appreciate the explosion, and they did so from their position hovering over Ushio village. After the moment of pride passed, Deidara had his bird dive through the remains of the smoke and dust cloud. As the bird cleared the smoke, both artists were disappointed by what they saw. Even though the barrier shattered, the damage to the city was minimal. In fact, the only place that was hit hard was the docks, since the seal reinforcement was weakest there. The merchant and defense vessels were rattled, and multiple sails were broken and in a state of disarray. "Where is our audience?" Sasori growled. Deidara grabbed his hair and screamed in disappointment, "They didn't even see my art, on." It is time to blow them out of their hidey holes." Sasori lashed out with his tail and knocked away a volley of kunai that came from a guard tower that was on the edge of the village. "Looks like they want to be a part of Act 2. He said madly in his growling tone laced with excitement. Sasori and Deidara then fought against an entrenched force for the next 10 minutes. They were winning the fight, but the seals and defenses provided by the tower were substantial. The training of the Kumo shinobi exceeded both of their expectations. There was surprisingly little spilt for the brief bout of ranked combat. Deidara was losing his patience and he was saving up for another big jutsu as Sasori used the Sandaime Kazekage to combat the Kumo shinobi. Suddenly, Sasori jumped up and climbed high into the sky on Deidara's clay bird as the blonde artist was ready for his next big show. "Are you ready for this?" Deidara shouted excitedly. "This is the end of Act 2. On." Sasori was mad that Deidara's art was hogging so much of the show, but it would be his turn to have fun once the guard tower was destroyed. Deidara shaped this massive clay figurine into a fat and bloated version of himself that puffed into a figurine roughly 10 times his normal size. As Deidara released his control over the clay, the figure plummeted down towards the guard tower. Sasori's eyes caught a deep blue flash appear on the edge of the village, and then he watched in amazement as a beam of lightning and water tore through the air and shredded the clay figurine. There was an explosion, but it wasn't the figurine blowing up. It was a brilliant blue chakra explosion that looked like it contained an absurd amount of Raten chakra. The remains of the figurine crackled with electricity as it fell to the ground with a thud. Looks like you have a dud there, Deidara the tranny bomber. A voice came from the man shrouded in blue lightning. Deidara zoomed in on the figure with his monocle and his face paled a bit. Sasori, my man, that is Ruto Maki. Sasori growled for a bit before responding. How did he get here so fast? I don't know, Deidara said in agitation as he looked at the dud of an explosive that was still crackling with lightning on the ground. Then the greeting registered in Deidara's mind, and he screamed out in frustration. I am no tranny. I will let you taste my art, Itachi whispered to Naruto, and Darui leaned his head in to listen to the plan. Ruto, you can fly, so he is yours. You also have the elemental advantage. Leave Sasori to Darui and I. Darui, I will create the opening, you capitalize. The trip broke up with a resolute nod, and Naruto summoned Virginia in a massive puff of smoke. Deidara and Sasori knew that they needed to split up, otherwise the air combat would make Sasori useless. Sasori jumped to the ground in his Hiroku puppet, and he still had chakra strings connected to the third Kazekage with a healthy amount of iron sand hovering around the puppet. As Naruto took off into the air, Sasori squared off against two of the strongest shinobi in Kumo. Battle in the ocean skies. Virginia soared into the sky at astounding speeds, and she swerved around, and barrel rolled over 5 clay swallows that flew through the air like bullets at the eagle Hanyu pair. The birds sailed into the ground and peppered the landscape with high-powered explosions. Naruto continued his ascent, and he growled as Deidara attempted to fly away. His growl turned menacing as he used his chakra to provide a supportive wind for Virginia, and the bird rapidly closed the distance. The sky is my domain, Deidara shouted over his shoulder as he released 2 handfuls of clay spiders. Naruto answered the spiders with a volley of lightning-coated kunai that were able to take out 8 of the 10 spiders. The neutralized spiders didn't detonate, but 2 spiders detonated below Virginia and made for a turbulent flight. The eagle screeched and redoubled her efforts to catch up to the slower bird. Naruto weaved through hand signs and gathered enough Raten chakra to his palms that it became visible. He clapped his hands together and a lightning bolt traced upwards into the sky in pursuit of Deidara. Deidara felt the build-up of chakra and he instinctively barrel rolled around the inverse lightning strike. His hair stood on end and his nose picked up the overwhelming smell of ozone for a moment before he was forced to dodge another lightning strike. The 2 birds flew through the air as explosions and lightning jutsu filled the sky for nearly 5 minutes before there was a sudden lapse in the action. Naruto opened his eyes in his sage mode after the clone he had gathering senjutsu chakra puffed into smoke. He immediately began calling on the power of the winds and clouds began forming over Deidara. The air started humming with static electricity and the mad bomber of Iwa knew that it meant nothing good for him. Lightning started flashing and thunder started booming in dark clouds as Deidara continued to climb. Deidara may be brash, but he was also smart. He knew that clouds would end if he climbed higher and he ordered his clay bird to do just that. He took a spark of lightning from the clouds as he climbed, but the bird managed to clear the cloud bank. As Deidara cleared the ominous clouds and went leveled out, he looked down in amazement on the dark clouds that were flashing with lightning and rumbling with thunder. Deidara's battle instincts flared, and he ordered his bird to barrel roll out of the way as Virginia descended with talons splayed out. As Deidara recovered from the barrel roll, he failed to notice the much smaller form of Naruto. At the last second, he jumped off his bird as a greatsword sheathed in lightning bisected his clay bird from beak to tail. Deidara flipped into a free fall as he was heading back down into the ominous clouds. Naruto banked hard and sheathed Heaven's blessing before he arced into the air and dove down after the free-falling Deidara. Naruto gathered the power of the tempest around him as he dove, and it formed into the beak of a screaming eagle. His glowing form tracked Deidara, and he saw the mad bomber pulling clay out of his pouch. Sure enough, moments later it formed into another clay bird. Deidara was able to form the bird mere meters above the cloud bank that was absolutely saturated with static electricity. He had the bird level out above the cloud bank, and he looked around in a panic. All of his instincts were flaring, and he no longer wanted to be a part of this battle in the sky. His eyes widened to sources as he saw a tempest eagle's head descending on him with its beak open. He threw a piece of clay as hard as he could away from the bird before his bird was engulfed by the tempest eagle. The dark clouds thundered loudly as the explosion caused a temporary clearance in the clouds due to the forceful explosion. The chakra light explosion from the eagle and Deidara's clay body exploding was truly majestic in the darkened night sky. From below, the guards watching from the guard tower watched as blue lightning arced from a central focus all over the night sky. The flash of light also created a large shadow of an eagle as Virginia changed directions towards her new target. Deidara was panting heavily as he fell through the cloud bank. The explosion had sent him careening through the clouds in an uncontrolled tailspin. Virginia slowed to a hover in the night sky below the blackened clouds. It didn't take long for Naruto to join her as his power kept him hovering in front of a cursing Deidara. Naruto kept the bomber in the sky so as not to endanger populace of Wave. He wanted to get some information out of the brash bomber of Iwa. Naruto's eyes glimmered electrically with power as he smirked at Deidara, who was flailing in Virginia's talons. So, Deidara, who sent you here to attack this village? Deidara scowled. Go to hell, on. My art will send you there, on. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. So, Fugaku made you loyal, eh? I didn't think someone like you would ever accept a loyalty seal. His eyes narrowed at the seal on the base of Deidara's neck. Deidara ed his head in confusion and Naruto pointed to the back of his neck. Damn it. That is so unartistic, on. Deidara started cackling madly as his heart started emanating chakra and his shirt disintegrated as a mouth over Deidara's heart appeared. Nobody can control art, on. For you see, art is a blast. As light flashed all over the land of waves, the rain halted, clouds cleared, and noise deafened the inhabitants of the island. The brilliant white chakra light was blinding, and it halted the ongoing battle between Sasori, Itachi and Darui. The air pressure that followed the blindingly white light was intense and it flattened the trees to the ground. Any unstable or unprotected structure was flattened, and the many barriers flashed a brilliant blue as the air pressure collided with them. Yawn. It looks like you are surprised to see us here, Sasori of the Red Sands. Mind telling us who sent you? Darui said lazily as he slung his cleaver onto his shoulder. Sasori in the Hiroku puppet glanced between the two attackers with anticipation. He knew how strong these two were and he wasn't sure that he would survive the ensuing fight. As doubt kicked in, a seal flared to life within the Hiroku puppet's body, and his doubts were halted in their place. Sasori growled, you will deter my art this night. Itachi's Sharingan caught the chakra flare within the puppet body and clicked her teeth. No use talking to a drone, Darui. Let's get this over with. Itachi closed the distance with Hiroku and was forced to dodge a lance of iron sand. She slid under the iron lance as Darui used laser circus to distract the Sandime puppet. The Hiroku puppet was in rough shape and the Senbon launchers were empty for the most part. That seal on his back is a loyalty seal. We won't get anything out of him, Itachi said with her M spinning. She could see so much clearer after she swapped eyes with her mother, and this was the first high-class battle to test this out. Darui grunted, that's bothersome. Before he undid the lightning on his blade and his eyes darted to the skies as he picked up the Tempest Eagle. Looks like Naruto is wrapping things up. Itachi glanced briefly into the sky and nodded with a smile on her face. I love when he uses the jutsu. The brilliant blue glow of the Tempest explosion illuminated the angelic smile with blinding light as Itachi closed her eyes and reinforced her eyelids with chakra. Sasori unsealed a scroll from his real body. It was a chakra wood body that took the appearance of a small, red-headed teen. The scruffy red hair looked like Gaara's, but the wooden face was unnatural. While the Tempest Eagle detonated, he tossed the scroll into the air and over 100 puppets appeared in the clearing in front of the tower. Sasori sank into a battle-ready position as he got ready to perform his dance of 100 puppets. The intermittent flashes of blue light cast an eerie glow that spread tension over the battlefield. Itachi and Darui squared off, but Itachi's eyes suddenly widened as she looked into the sky. She saw a magnificent chakra light forming and she jumped over to Darui, whose senses had already detected the chakra buildup. Sasori was ready to attack when Deidara activated one of his more powerful jutsu. Sasori hated the imitation of art, but it was definitely effective. The massive wave of pressure and damaging wind slammed into Sasori's puppet army and flattened damn near half of them while Sasori used the other puppets to soak the impact of the shockwave. His puppet body rattled, and the force was strong enough to send him skidding back. He really wished that he had the iron sands available to him at this point, but alas, he didn't, and his puppets were paying the price. Once the explosion cleared, a huge hole remained in the dense cloud cover of the night sky. The moonlight poured down on the battlefield and Sasori was testing his chakra strings to see how many of his puppets were still operational. Before he could get his legs back under him, Itachi grunted as her chakra construct took the brunt of the explosion. The ethereal orange-red chakra flickered brilliantly as the Susanoo hid behind the shield to absorb the impact. Itachi's keen eyes saw a temporary opening brought by the distracting explosive. Naruto shook off the effects of the blinding light as he took a knee inside a bunker. Before he could truly gather his bearings, he was tackled to the ground by a mature, pregnant woman and an 11-year-old. His toddler of a son joined the dog pile and Naruto couldn't halt the smile that broke out on his face. That was when the shockwave of the explosion hit the bunker and rattled it something fierce. Panicked cries filled the room, and he could hear Inari and Kaisa whimpering while he saw the distressed look on Tsunami's face. What is going on out there, Ruto? Tsunami asked after the shock of seeing him appear faded. Naruto rubbed her back soothingly and replied loud enough for everyone to hear, "Two Akatsuki attacked. We got your message and came right away. I finished off the bomber and left Itachi and Darui to handle the other one." This earned a gasp from those seeking shelter in the bunker. Are they going to be okay? Inari asked with concern while he reached into a kunai pouch strapped to his right leg. Naruto ruffled his hair. "Sure thing, bucko. Thanks for looking after your mom and brother for me." Inari blushed bashfully before he looked up with eyes filled with naive determination. It is my job when you are away, Popper. You can count on me." This earned coos from the women in the bunker and the men looked on proudly while nodding their heads. One more ruffle of the hair and Naruto stood up. "Good, well I am counting on you. I must go check on your Aunt Itachi and Uncle Darui. Hold it down in here." He went out with a bang, didn't he? Itachi said wryly. Behind Naruto, the door to the guard tower opened and the Kumo shinobi formed up around the three elites while cheering. Naruto responded to Itachi's jab. "Yeah, crazy F turned our fight into a dog fight. If I didn't have the eagles, I don't know how we would have finished him off." Once Virginia caught him, he activated AS Jutsu. How big was the explosion? Darui scoffed and pointed up into the night sky where there was still a massive circular parting of the clouds. "Get the picture?" he asked in a lazy and deadpan tone. Naruto chuckled sheepishly while the shinobi laughed around him. "Yeah, well, he started glowing and I dipped out. I felt the blast in Tsunami's bunker though. Pretty strong considering how high up we were." Itachi giggled. "It sure was. The chakra buildup was nearly blinding with my Sharingan active, and it took stage 2 Susanoo to not be crushed." Naruto whistled lowly. "So, I take it that was why so many of these puppets look like they just got out of a junkyard compressor." Darui scratched the back of his neck. "Without Itachi, that really woulda hurt. Anyway, who is commanding officer here?" A bald man of average height with a round face stepped forward. "I am, Darui-sama." "Report, Saitama-san," Darui said with authority. Naruto stepped in. "What time did we arrive?" 8:12 p.m. Saitama answered. Naruto nodded. "All right, begin cleanup operations. Backup is on the way from Azu and Reikage-sama is sending another battalion to assist in cleanup and lock the island down. Itachi and I are going to scout towards Fire Country. This has Konoha written all over it even though it was only the two Akatsuki that attacked the island. Reikage's office, 5 days after attack on Wave. Naruto, Itachi and Darui reported into the Reikage 5 days after the attack on Wave Country. After chasing off the battalion of Konoha shinobi with storms and lightning strikes, Naruto returned to Ushio. They spent the week helping the citizens of Wave repair the docks and other damage to the city. Deidara's explosions were fierce, and it was implausible to cover every building in barriers. Cleaning out the harbor was probably the hardest part, but it paid to have a shinobi with a water affinity in the group. Plus, the Azu reinforcements arrived and helped out. The Sand Sibs got some time off the island, and they got a chance to hang out with Naruto in Wave. It was nice catching up with them and some of the squads from Azushio. They were going to remain for a month-long rotation in Wave. Hanabi, Sasumi and some of the other Konoha evacuees enjoyed some time off Azushio as they mingled with the lively people of Wave. They were allowed off the island in much the same way that the Divine Bolts were. Azu's whirlpools appeared to be the island's masked Anbu. In reality, they were anyone that needed to keep their public idini hidden until Konoha was dealt with. They wore dark red masks with black whirlpool markings on the cheeks. The uniforms were the Uzumaki red vests with black long-sleeve shirts and black Anbu-style pants. They each carried katanas or wakizashis on their hips and every single one had a fuinjutsu pouch. It was only moments before appearing in Ai's office that he bid farewell to the teams. That being said, he still had 20 clones in Wave to help out where they could, so in a way, he was still there. Man, it became difficult to keep track of Naruto after the Hiraishin truly came into play. Despite that, 3 of the strongest shinobi in Kumo were reporting into Ai. After their report, they all waited for Ai to process it and reply. While Naruto walked over to his B clone to sync up, Ai's mind was racing with the implications of the discussed information. It was a lot to take in and Ai didn't desire to see his peaceful life uprooted by war. He wanted to continue the prosperity. He wanted to continue spending his time with Mei and training Naruto. After watching his successor sync with his clone, he finally spoke in a solemn and serious tone. While you 3 were in Wave, Iwa suffered a serious attack. He held up his hand to stop any questions from Naruto, the only one passionate enough to interrupt him. Iwa was attacked directly by the Akatsuki on the same night, at roughly the same time, that you dealt with them in Wave. Awagakor had it far worse though. They were assaulted by 4 members of the Akatsuki and over 100 feet acolytes. During the attack, Onoki was injured and Kitsuki was K. Naruto's face was blank, but I could see the repressed anger. Did they identify the attackers? I nodded stoically with his hands crossed under his chin, hidden, Kakazu, Kisame and reports of the plant creature. We got new news on the plant creature as well. Evidently, it can create clones that imitate chakra signatures, and it can implant spores that absorb chakra from shinobi. The other 3 we already have dossiers on, so we will review those. The acolytes were just high chunin to low jonin level shinobi. What was the damage, boss? Darui asked. Ai's stoic face turned into a frown. They have over 200 D shinobi with far more wounded. They lost nearly 200 civilians before they were able to evacuate. Han, the 5 Tails Jinchuriki was also captured. Kitsuki D protecting him. Naruto let out a long and deep breath before he looked up with hardened eyes. Are we finally going to move on Konoha then? I shook his head in the negative. No, not yet. Plus, I haven't told you the worst part yet. Naruto fell silent and Darui shifted nervously. There were 4 Jinchuriki present during the attack. They couldn't be identified, but it confirms that the Akatsuki is using the Jinchuriki to fight. This statement earned a stunned silence from the trio, so I continued. None of them used any more than 1 tail, but that is to be expected of a new Jinchuriki. Naruto scowled as Hikari growled inside his mind. No, that shouldn't be possible. Sure, the 3 tails and maybe the 4 tails could be sealed into an adult, but the 6 and 7 tails shouldn't be able to. That is far too much yokai for a developed chakra system to get attuned to. I shrugged his massive shoulders. B said the same thing. That being said, Onoki reported 4 Jinchuriki and I have no reason to doubt him. Hikari had a eureka moment. It might be possible if they have the Biju controlled by the Sharingan, Ruto. Naruto frowned deeply at that added bit of information. Reikage-sama, Hikari thinks that it is likely due to the influence of the Sharingan that it would be possible. I scowled at that since he hadn't thought of that possibility. So, we are going to have to deal with sucked-up Sharingan eyes. Great, just great. Naruto scoffed. I am not scared of that. If they can only access 1 tail and their new Jinchuriki, then they could never stand up to B, Yugito or myself. Gaara is coming along well too ever since he went to Turtle Island and the Sage's Temple. Hell, even Shukaku has mellowed out. We can match them blow for blow on the Jinchuriki front. To me, it seems like if we play this passively then all we do is hand them the initiative. Itachi followed Naruto up. Ruto is right, Raikage-sama. Right now, they're counting on us not calling their act. They are expecting the world not to blame Konoha just because the organization of Akatsuki seems to be composed of nuke nins. Darui mumbled, bothersome, change her name from Uchiha to Uzumaki and she becomes so bothersome. Naruto slugged Darui in the shoulder, bothersome or not, she is right. So, what's the plan, old man? I scowled, I ain't that old, young B. Maybe it is time for another match to prove that to you. Naruto laughed at that, oh yeah. Are you going to enforce handicaps on me again? Oh Ruto, you can't use your yokai. Oh Ruto, no tempest chains. Oh Ruto, Naruto had to duck a lightning lariat from Ai, and he turned to square off against his father figure. I scowled as his lightning armor stage 1 flickered around his body. Look here, brat. I held back my K moves when we sparred as well. Naruto raised out of his combative stance, yeah. Well, I mean, I pretty much only have moves that would K you if they hit you. You were the one that trained me that way. I raised out of his combat ready stance and let the lightning fizzle out. Yeah, I know. Plus, you have Sage mode now. Anyway, times are too serious for us to risk injuring each other. Onoki is going to call for a 4 cage summit. Of course, Ao and I will go in order to put pressure on Fugaku to show up. You and Darui will come with me. What about Uzushiogakure? Why not make it 5 again and extend the invite list? Konoha has beef with all of us, so let's just throw it in their face. Naruto suggested. I thought about it for a bit and nodded. I will talk to Onoki and Ao about it. Ruto, I need you to be alert at all times, bud. B and Yugito will be teaming up with Anko and she as a permanent team. I can't afford to shelve them, so I created an S-rank team. I know that you, Mabui and Samui are at that level, but I am going to put Itachi with you to round it out. All Jinchuriki are going to be protected at all times. Naruto suppressed his growl and nodded. What about Gaara? Temari and Kankuro are strong, but they are not S-rank. I am leaving that up to Kushina. For regular operations, the Sand Sibs are still off the radar. The chakra masking seals make it so that we don't have to worry about Shukaku being detected. The sensing and barrier seals make it so that they have a safe home to go to. Until open war is declared, Gaara will remain a trump card. Naruto listened to his Raikage, and he wanted to say something on behalf of his Jinchuriki brethren. You know that we are not weapons. You know that we are assets. The only thing I ask for is your trust. Let us be a part of this fight. As of right now, it looks like Kumo and Konoha are due for a duel. Let us slug it out and I promise you we won't have to worry about those baby Jinchuriki. Konoha, 7 days after assault on a Wagakure. Fugaku couldn't help but smile when he was alone in his office with Black Zetsu. He may have tipped his hand, but his force just assaulted one of the great villages and made a powerful statement. The Akatsuki were a fearsome force and he had it at his disposal. The results they provided, other than Deidara and Sasori, were nearly perfect. The premiere of Akatsuki's 4 Jinchuriki also went well and Sasuke, his son, was becoming a true Uchiha warrior as the leader of the Akatsuki. The reports that Hiden took over 100 fatal blows in 1 hour made Fugaku inclined to believe in the man's immortality. Kakazu's acquisition of Kitsuki's Earth Heart made Fugaku believe that the man would be an unstoppable juggernaut. Kisam's power combined with Samehada made him seem unstoppable and Zetsu was the ultimate spy and infiltrator. It was almost time for the Akatsuki's public debut as an asset of Konoha. You are doing well, Fugaku. Only 4 more and our mission will be complete. Black Zetsu said in genuine praise. Thank you, Zetsu. Your guidance has been appreciated. Fugaku replied placidly. How are you adapting to your eyes? Zetsu asked while looking into the ringed eyes of the Rinnegan. Fugaku frowned. Every time I believe I have learned something, their limitless power shows itself and humbles me. I have only gained a grasp over 3 of the 6 paths, and I am far from mastery. Zetsu's plant head nodded in a creepy fashion. It took Madara-sama many years to understand the eyes. That being said, are you ready to confront Kumo yet? Fugaku folded his hands and rested his chin. I do not know. The fact that Sasori and Deidara were so easily dispatched gives me pause. The fact that your clones were destroyed by the storms makes me uneasy as well. All I have are the reports from the shinobi that were stationed miles away. Black Zetsu half frowned while the white Goofy half smiled. It was a truly odd sight. The fact that my clones were destroyed means that it was either the boys or Deidara's wide-scale attacks. Regardless, the power of the Rinnegan should be enough to compensate. Fugaku nodded. I do not disagree. I miss my Sharingan, but these eyes hold so much power. Did Madara know how to deactivate them? You will not be able to. They do not belong to you. Since they are transplants, they will remain in an activated state, Zetsu informed the Uchiha Hokage. That is why we provided those contacts for you. They will shield the Rinnegan and make it appear as if you have your Sharingan until you actually use them. Very well, what do you think of this 5-cage summit? Should we take the opportunity to attack? Fugaku asked. Zetsu shook his head. If you attack now, then we can no longer deny the Akatsuki is working for Konoha. I agree with Danzo that it is not yet time. We need to locate the Ichibi and the Kyubi before we can make our true debut. Should I even attend then? We stand much to lose if it goes south. Fugaku asked, sincerely looking for advice. Zetsu remained silent and thought over his options before responding. I agree with Danzo, we need to make an appearance. If they draw us into war, then we move and crush the weak links. Kiri is not a true threat, and we could divert Kumo's attention to their ally. Iwa is recoiling from the attack and the successor to the Cageler is dead. Wave, while defended, would falter an all-out assault. Their alliances make them weak if we attack without restraint. Fugaku nodded before he rose up out of his seat. In the event I do attend, please go and scout the designated meeting place in Iron Country. I must attend another meaningless council meeting filled with sniveling whiners. Zetsu snickered as he phased into the floor. Enjoy your wife. Ever since she confirmed the pregnancy, she is even more of a banshee. This comment made Fugaku freeze and flinch. He really despised that woman and her daughter. Both of his sons' wives were truly useless kunoiki. He shook off the thoughts and regained his composure. At least the other concubines that were with his children weren't so annoying. Danzo simply gave him women that proved they could be powerful kunoiki that would provide a more powerful generation of Uchiha. That was, at least, something. Within the council chambers, Fugaku told the council about the Akatsuki's attacks on Wave and Iwa. He maintained an impassive visage and wanted to simply monitor how the clan heads responded to the events. It was their analytical eyes and skepticism that made him nervous, but he hid this behind his impassive mask. As he concluded his report, he opened the floor for discussion. Hokage-sama, we must attend the summit and denounce this organization. The fact that they have 4 Jinchuriki, now possibly 5, makes them a dire threat. Shikaku said lazily while his ingenious eyes watched Fugaku's reaction. Homura drew the attention to himself. I agree. We can use this time of unrest to stake our claim on the Jinchuriki. The Uzumaki boy should have been ours, and this presents the proper forum to state our demands. If they want our assistance versus this Akatsuki, then we can demand him as the price of our cooperation. This seemed to stir the greedy minds of the civilian council while the shinobi council looked dubious. Chusa chuckled at Tsume. Indeed, that would be more likely to cause war than avoid one. Danzo clicked his cane. Konoha is in need of such strength. I do not find it unreasonable. We can tie his inheritance to his return. Hiyashi raised an eyebrow. What inheritance? The Uzumaki and Namika's compounds were destroyed. The Hokage vault was raided. There is no inheritance, other than money, that we can offer. They don't know that, Koharu said snidely. Do you believe them stupid or incompetent? Shikaku asked. Because I see a formidable enemy that has raised Kumo to the strongest and most influential hidden village. They didn't do this by power or fear, but by entrepreneurial spirit and by redefining the status quo. No money, power, women or anything you dangle in front of him would make the Uzumakis or Kumo accept that offer. Shikaku was done with this foolish line of thought and he wanted to lay it to rest already. Fugaku listened to Shikaku and agreed with his assessment. The man may be lazy, but he is an absolute genius. Maybe he could use it as something to rile the cages up when he needed a distraction. I agree, let's move on from that line of thought. What are your thoughts on the Akatsuki and what should our response be? Mibuyuki stood up. Husband, I may be a civilian, but I don't see any need for us to get involved. We are free of our demons, and it is not our problem. The civilians muttered their agreement to this statement. Choose opposed something, if we do not partake, then we further ostracize ourselves from the other villages. The Akatsuki is a universal enemy that could unite the great villages. This could be something that could move us past old grudges. Shibi Aburame pushed his glasses up. Chusa-san is right. This is an opportunity for Konoha to gain standing as a leader in the shinobi world once more. Logic dictates that any rogue organization using the power of the Biju is a risk to Konoha. Fugaku nodded his head. That would be the case if he weren't the head of the organization. This is why he could never trust anyone outside of the most loyal Uchiha with this secret. Your logic is solid, Shibi. However, I do not see the need to risk our strength and the lives of our shinobi for a fight that isn't ours. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed at the thin line that Fugaku was walking. The man was clearly up to something and Hiruzen trusted him less and less with each passing day. We are shinobi, we risk our lives every day. What do we know of the Akatsuki, and do we have any intelligence on where they reside? Jiraiya stepped forward to play his part as the spymaster. After everything that happened with the Uzumaki, and the subtle and repeat influence of the Sharingan, Jiraiya was in Fugaku's camp. Intelligence points to a megacore. Back after the Second War, I trained 3 children that were opposed to Hanzo. They led an organization by the same name, Akatsuki. The Jonin sensei of Am's teams during the Chunin exams were actually those children grown up. I recommend we put pressure on Am in an attempt to draw him out. Isn't Am allied with Kumo? Koharu asked. Didn't we get intelligence about Hanzo's daughter, the girl from said Chunin exams, marrying Naruto Uzumaki? Jiraiya nodded. That is confirmed. There seems to be an unspoken alliance there. Wouldn't that mean that those 2 nations have all but the Ichibi? Could they possibly have the Ichibi too? Shikaku asked while sitting fully alert in his seat. His eyes were wide with the implications. The council responded to this in a nervous fashion too. Fugaku didn't think of that angle, but it served as a distraction. However, if that were the case, then Konoha would be doomed. He didn't realize that the implied threat created may be too great for people to willingly stand against. The looks of fear made Fugaku think that this was a step too far. We do not know this for sure. Am is still isolationist and we have never been able to penetrate their borders. For now, we can point the finger at Am. Fugaku said with finality. Meeting of Am, Kumo and Azushio, 3 nights before Cage Summit. Naruto used his Hiraishin to make a meeting possible that could easily slide under the radar. Hanzo, being the pragmatist and fearsome leader he was, knew of the invaluable resource that the Hiraishin represented. It wasn't even its combat prowess that made it so fearsome. It was the potential to be anywhere in the world in a flash. That was a paradigm shifter that could rock the elemental nations. It was this paradigm shift that allowed Kushina, Naruto, Hanzo, Yahiko, Konan and Nagato to have a meeting. Things were coming to a head and Hanzo knew it was about time for a megacore to come out of its isolationist policies. Thus, Hanzo hosted the conversation within his classy study, and he began the serious conversation after the pleasantries were over. So, you are going to this summit in Iron Country. What is your true goal for this meeting? Sure, Onoki knows that Konoha is pulling the strings by now. Hanzo said in his usual gruff voice. I took a sip of his drink before responding. What I am about to tell you cannot be shared needlessly. We had a messenger from Makai, the land of demons. The Sage of 6 Paths originally took the leader of the 9 greatest clans of Makai and divided the Juubi's chakra between the demons. We only call them demons because they are a longer-lived race from a different world. Of course, they have much denser chakra than we do, which caused humans to fear them and resulted in their capture. Naruto took over here, since the Biju were sealed. Ever since Madara took control of the Kyuubi for the first time, the link to Makai was severed. Before, it was as easy for them to travel to this world as the animals of the summoning realm. However, something severed that connection. When my father made the contract with Hikari, she was able to send him to that realm at the cost of his life. He created a portal, and we had a visitor come through. Since then, we have worked to create a more stable portal to reconnect with the great clans. Hanzo took in the information stoically, but it was the passionate Yahiko that responded first. Wow, that is a lot to take in. So, is there a reason you are telling this to us? Naruto nodded. The kitsune that came through arrived in Konoha. He sensed something was wrong when he found the destroyed compounds and he did some snooping. He brought us proof that Akatsuki was being maneuvered from the darkness of Konoha. Fugaku and Danzo seem to be leading the organization from the shadows. Kushina, I and Naruto let the others process this information in silence. They exchanged looks with one another that said everything that need be said with a single glance. Finally, Hanzo spoke. Why tell us this now? Kushina took this question, because now it is coming to a head, and I think Am will be involved. Why would Am be involved, Kushina-sama? Nagato asked respectfully. Because I don't think it was a mistake that they took your former organization's name. I think they will take this opportunity to misdirect, and I wanted to know what you thought of it, Hanzo Dono. Kushina answered. Hanzo mulled this over. What is Onoki wishing to do? Have you informed him of this information? I fielded this one, not this exactly. We have told him about intelligence reports that point to Konoha. I think he believes us, and this attack should convince him of it. The fact that Wave was attacked simultaneously should make that much obvious. And what of Kiri? Conan asked. I blushed at this one. Well, my marriage to Mei makes that a pretty concrete alliance. Ao is on our side, and we are working together to cement the alliance. Hanzo wrinkled his brow. Why would they make enemies of the whole shinobi world? What gives them such confidence? Surely it isn't only a couple Jinchuriki. Kushina frowned and scoffed at this. The pride of the Uchiha cannot be underestimated. Their eyes are strong, but they fill them with a sense of pride and arrogance. Plus, they believe that we do not know this information and they don't know that we are close enough to trust each other with it. Hanzo nodded. Very well, if they attempt to point the finger in our direction, then I would ask you to vouch for us. I believe the desired outcome is to isolate Konoha and pin the blame on them. They have gone too far, and it is time to put them in their place. I nodded with a smirk. I was thinking the same thing. That being said, Kushina, why don't you ask Hanzo what you wanted to ask him? Kushina smiled towards Nagato. You are a trusted member of a megacorps and you are an Uzumaki. I wanted to invite you to be my guard so that Am is not truly left out of these deliberations. Hanzo gave an appreciative look to Kushina and turned to Nagato. I would like you to go. I trust you with this task and I will expect a full report. Nagato stood and bowed deeply at the waist. It will be done. Awagakor, Cage Tower, 2 days before Cage Summit. Naruto flew into Awagakor on the back of Virginia and made no aggressive moves as he dismounted the bird and was surrounded by golem guards. He waited patiently with his mask on and hands up until he was escorted to the Cage Tower. He remained surrounded by 8 golem guards as he walked to the front of Onoki's desk. The old man's head was still covered in bandages and Naruto saw his right shoulder was bandaged as well. Naruto stood in place and bowed. Greetings, Tsuchikage Dono, I apologize for my unannounced arrival. I offer my sincere condolences for the loss of your son and all of the casualties from that cowardly attack. I come with a message from the Raikage for you. I ask for privacy, and I am willing to have my chakra sealed to get a private audience with you. Onoki looked at the boy analytically and waved his hands. The golem guards disappeared, which left Kuretsuki and Akatsuki, the children of Kitsuki, in the room. I believe you know my grandson and granddaughter. I will give you this audience, but I request they stay here. Naruto nodded and he waited for Onoki to activate the silencing seals. Do you wish for me to share the memories with all 3 of you or just yourself, Onoki Dono? Onoki edged his head to the side. You can share memories. Naruto undid his transformation, which got a funny reaction from Kuretsuki and Akatsuki shifted nervously. I am not a Kitsune Hanyu for no reason. Now, all 3 of you. Onoki nodded and Naruto shared the memories of Kitsubi snooping in Konoha, of his meeting with Kitsubi and the battle in Wave Country. The 3 saw the couple hours worth of memories in 15 minutes and Onoki frowned deeply. Kuretsuki was on the verge of an outburst and Akatsuki remained shuffling agitatedly. Finally, Onoki spoke to Naruto. My boy, that was a lot to take in. That being said, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I just accepted those as memories and not illusions. What assurances can Kumo provide that you are being genuine? Naruto frowned slightly at that. Onoki Dono, I do not know how much further I can go. I came here in good faith to let you know what you were walking into. Konoha has been up to no good for the past 3 years and everything is coming to a head. That being said, I will ask this. Past the agreement I made with your D-son, what assurances do you want from me? Onoki's eyes sparkled, and he couldn't wait to see the reaction of the youngsters. This was out of left field, but as soon as the idea implanted itself in his old brain, he couldn't dislodge it. The way I see it, you are bound by marriage and family to each of Kumo's allies. Is this true? Naruto nodded hesitantly, really not liking where this was going. Then, I wish for a marriage contract between my granddaughter, Kuretsuki-chan, and yourself. While Naruto looked at him blankly, Kuretsuki freaked the hell out. What in the actual F, Gramps? Have you finally gone senile? What in the? Akatsuki put his massive hands on Kuretsuki's shoulders. Relax, little sister. This is a good idea. Kuretsuki looked at him incredulously, but Onoki cut her off. Kuro-chan, please be silent. A Wagakure has been weakened and an alliance of marriage between Iwa and Kumo would benefit us greatly. Naruto sighed and rubbed his face. Are you aware that there are other respectable males in Kumo? I recently married 7 women at once. That isn't even considering her own feelings on the matter. Kuretsuki put her hands on her hips and took a sassy stance. What, am I not good enough for you? Naruto looked at Kuretsuki with weary eyes while Hikari laughed her off within the mindscape. Of course, the Kitsune opened the link to let him hear her laughter. Princess, do you know that I recently married 7 beautiful women? Do you know that, as the heir of the Uzumaki clan, that my mother asked me to repopulate the Uzumaki with my clan sisters? Do you know how, even with my Hanubi, do you know how exhausting it is to keep so many women pleased? Kuretsuki's, Onoki's and Akatsuki's jaw dropped. While Onoki burst backward with a nose B and Akatsuki toppled over, Kuretsuki looked at Naruto incredulously. Are you serious? Naruto nodded wearily. It is a great honor and responsibility. I love each of my wives with all my heart and I work hard every day to let them know that. I informed you of this to let you in on my perspective. I think you are a beautiful girl and I know that you are strong. However, it wouldn't be fair to you to throw you into the mix now. How do you feel about that? Kuretsuki blushed and shuffled nervously. I guess it makes me curious. At Naruto's dumbfounded look, she explained, I would like to know how you keep so many women happy and loyal. Naruto nodded and filled the room with shadow clones. I create clones every day to stay present in their lives and keep them happy. Let me tell you, it is a lot of work. Every day I get the memories of at least 100 days. That would honestly be a light day for me. As I said, I love my girls, but I would be lying if I said it were easy. Not to mention, my second child is due next week. Kuretsuki blushed and remained contemplative as she fidgeted nervously until Onoki and Akatsuki recovered consciousness. Onoki shook out the cobwebs and looked at the room full of Narutos. Uzumaki-san, why is the room full of your clones? Naruto sighed. She asked me how I kept all of my girls happy. This made Onoki and Akatsuki blow back with bigger nose be that before. Rather than wait respectfully, Kuretsuki slapped him awake while berating them for being p. It took a couple minutes and Naruto got to watch the ancient Tsuchikage get beaten by his granddaughter. After a couple minutes, the room settled back down, and Naruto dispelled his clones. Onoki regained his composure, despite the fresh lumps on his head. We will table that offer for now. Iwa needs these 2 for stability anyways. So, why did you share this information with us, Uzumaki-san? Onoki said back in cage mode. To help you avoid any misdirection from Konoha's part. I also want you to be aware that this could very well be a trap. Konoha's aggressive attack on Iwa and Wave tells us that they are nearly ready to move. It might be time for the struggle to come out of the shadows, which would make for a dire situation. Naruto said seriously. Onoki frowned and analyzed Naruto for a little bit. You know we took a hit. I will not deny that. What would you ask of Iwa? Naruto nodded at the obvious admission. Honestly, we just need you to hedge Konoha in. Our fighting force is more than capable of matching them. Even with them having 4, possibly 5, Jinchuriki. Onoki asked dubiously. Our reports said they only used 1 tail. Was that accurate? Naruto asked and Onoki nodded sternly. Then yes, we will be just fine. We have several shinobi that are capable of handling such foes. Plus, chakra seals can easily sever the links to their Biju's chakra. Furthermore, this is just speculation, but we believe that each of the Jinchuriki are Uchiha. We believe this because it is the only likely explanation for how they were able to force submission of the Biju. Why do you think the Biju are being forced? Akatsuki asked in a nasally voice. Because the three of us in Kumo have perfect relationships and partnerships with our Biju. Not to mention, one of my wives is the Kyubi no Kitsune. I believe that qualifies me to speak on this. Naruto answered plainly, which earned more dumbfounded reactions. Oh, okay, we will take your word for it, Onoki said dubiously. Naruto beamed a smile. Good, now, I will return to Kumo. Y'all have a great day. With a goofy smile and casual wave, Naruto disappeared from the Tsuchikage's office in a blue flash. This, of course, caused the three in the Tsuchikage's office to faint in unison. That was the final straw that overloaded their already strained brains. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.